Commish Radio Show back again for the second half of the show. If you guys missed the first half of the show, that was Miss Tina Hyde, the widow of Mr. Carlos Dion Hyde, who was shot by the Grand Prairie Police Department. The whole entire family came up on the Commish show. They wanted to be on this show to address some concerns that happened in Grand Prairie regarding the shooting, and also the fact that the police department it had been referred, or has been referred, the shooting has been referred to the district attorney. So that is the reason why that they were here. They are having not a rally, but what they're having is they will be exercising their constitutional right and speaking to the Grand Prairie City Council tomorrow. I found out that they were going to do that, and as a result of that, I wanted to have them on the show, and they had asked to be on the show. But you saw the whole family out there, didn't you?
Yes, I saw their beautiful grandkids. They were very beautiful and loving, and I guess it was the daughter, right, with her husband?
Right.
Or was it the other way around?
It was well, you saw the whole family, the grandkids, and you also saw some other family members as well.
Yeah.
So it was a very, very sad situation.
Yeah, one of the little boys did look very sad.
Yeah, well, they all do now,
Yeah.
considering that a lot of this had been broadcast on
They were little.
Facebook Live.
Look sad.
Yeah.
That was really... Now it makes sense. I had no idea that's...
See, when you come on the Commish Radio Show, we have all kinds of things happening here. But Happy Mother's Day. I see you have a Happy Mother's Day card that went out for people to vote and everything. And we would like to go ahead and tell everybody who you are. You're Miss Paula Rosales. Miss Paula Rosales. And you are running for, which office are you running for?
County Court at Law Number 4, Dallas County. So it's a county-wide office. It encompasses many, many municipalities. I can name them all if you want to, but I think it's pretty clear: Richardson, Dallas, Grand Prairie, Lancaster, DeSoto, etc. And we're going to represent close to 1 million people, basically. This is a general jurisdiction court, meaning that we basically share jurisdiction with the district court, the civil district courts, except for the foreclosure cases. And it's an opportunity for me as a public leader, as a public servant, to expand my reach. I was a municipal judge for 5 years, serving solely the city of Dallas. And this is an opportunity for me to bring my talent and my diverse experience to the county bench.
Now, your opponent, who is the incumbent, and I understand that most people, when they're running for office, they don't want to say who the incumbent is.
Right. And, I'm going to keep it the same. He is the opponent. I'm the frontliner going into the runoff election. I beat him by almost 10,000 votes. And, we are in the runoff because, you've all seen it in the morning news that he recruited 2 women to jump in the race. The Dallas Morning News has indicated that this indicts his integrity, even going as far as calling it dirty politics. Yeah.
Wouldn't some people just say that's just plain politics, that people do things like that? They knock down signs. Not saying he's done that.
Right.
But people knock down signs. They do all kind of little mischief and everything.
Right. So, in fact, my campaign team worked very hard this weekend to put up signs, and we already have a few missing. It's a bit disappointing. This is a judicial office, and so when I decided to file for this office, I had an expectation that the standards were going to be higher, that the politicking of this type of office would not take place, and it has.
Why do you think that's happened?
Really, I'm an observer as well as a candidate, and it seems to me that this has been a race, at least from my opponent's standpoint, about him as an individual and not necessarily as a community. I'm doing this because I believe that it's in the best interest of the Dallas County community to change judges. And from the perspective that he's indicated publicly over and over again, it's been about victimization, about he's a victim in this whole process.
What do you mean?
Well, really, first off, ensuring that,
And that's Judge Ken Tapscott, right?
and I believe you've interviewed him
Right.
before. This is my first time in your show, by the way.
Right.
So I'm really excited to be here, and thank
Right.
you for the
No,
opportunity.
thank you. I'm going to say his name because we're going to be talking about him, and everyone that's going to be listening going to say, who's him? So, go ahead.
Well, no, and
This is your show. Just remind, this is your show.
I understand.
Okay.
So it's you come in this kind of a, I don't want to call it dreaming type way when you decide that you're going to run for office. It's a very noble act, in my opinion, to put yourself out there and let the voters see who you are. You get to meet the voters, the constituents, try to understand what they care about, what drives them, and really, if kind of I can backtrack for a second, we have one life in this world, right? We have one life to make a difference. And, times, especially with technology, are going very fast. Things are changing very fast. And our institutions, traditionally in the judicial system, have been very slow to make change happen. We know that, gaining one right takes a lot of work. It takes years, decades to make one change. So that's, of course, up to the legislature. And all I'm trying to say is that, in the world that we live in, while technology is making things happen very fast, and the youth, the children, the generations that come behind me are having to keep up with all that technology, our expectations for the courts are not the same. And I say, let's take advantage of the technology we have. Let's take advantage of the new advancements in globalization, the new ideas that are penetrating our communities, and let's put them to work. Let's put them to work for the community. And, I had the opportunity to serve as a community judge. I had the opportunity to serve as a City of Dallas judge. And I was so blessed to, be part of several discussions that had to do with integrating systems, not just the municipal court system with a county and district court system, but also the systems of education with the law schools, the systems of the nonprofit world.
And where'd you go to law school?
I went here locally, so actually maybe about 25 minutes away from where you are. That's Texas Wesleyan Law School. I claim Texas Wesleyan. I know that
Is
now
that
it's...
Rams?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I know that now it's Texas A&M, so that's okay. They're a fantastic school. In fact, one of the professors there who is heading the experiential program, Professor Herrera, is doing amazing work there, and she comes in from California. And one of the things that I know that she's trying to do is utilize this experiential program experience for the students to allow them to impart their talents towards social justice. And I'm quite confident that if lucky enough to be elected for this position, there could be a relationship there.
The social justice. And this
Yes.
is a civil court, right?
This is a civil court. That's
Okay.
correct. It's a civil court.
So how can you apply social justice to civil?
Sure. So social justice really is about ensuring that the institutions work for the people. And when the county court, we have 5 county courts in the city of in Dallas County. Pardon me. I'm running for number 4. And when you are in an elected position or in an official position, you get that advantage of having a bird's eye view of what the system is about, what that particular responsibility is about. And what I've discovered is that county courts have a lot of opportunities to prevent consequences such as homelessness, bankruptcy proceedings, and right now that is not something that is being considered as a problem. So the first thing to solve an issue, to solve a problem, is to recognize that there's an issue. Right now, there's not a recognition that folks who can't afford attorneys, low-income individuals, indigent people who get sued, there's not a recognition that they need to access the system.
Okay, and that's specifically in your court. So you also do foreclosure proceedings when they appeal, correct?
So the foreclosures are the jurisdiction of well, they're the jurisdiction of the district courts. So
Right.
that's the one area of property law that I'm not going to be able to have access to. And I know that some district court judges are having some types of programmings that they've been doing for some time. And so that, that's going to be up to them. But one of the things that I know I can do is if I'm placed in this position, if I'm elected by the people, right now in the runoff from May 14th through the 18th, and we started today.
You were at the polls today?
I was at the polls today, which is, why I'm wearing my t-shirt and my hair is the way it is. I was wearing a hat. It was very warm and humid outside. We were, it's in the trenches. This is what democracy looks like.
So how was the polling numbers looking?
Well, very good. In my opinion, there is interest. Of course, the governor is at the top of the ticket this time, and that's driving several folks to the polling locations. We're not going to know the numbers probably until tomorrow morning, the official numbers for everybody.
Okay.
For everybody, what I mean that is there are about 34, 37 polling locations, and so we need to make sure that we know how many voted for the entire day. The polls close at 7 p.m. today. In terms of, can I contrast between today, first day of early vote versus in the runoff versus the first numbers of the primary election, I don't have that for you yet.
Now, what is contrast yourself versus your opponent?
Sure. Well, of course, as I said, that one of the things I'm very proud of is the diversity of life experience and of legal field experience that I bring to the bench. I'm a first-generation American. I'm a second-generation attorney. Both my parents are attorneys. And I'm a third, fourth-generation human rights advocate. I have had amazing mentors in my life, and the resistant movement.
Now, that's a story in itself. You said first-generation American.
Yes.
So your parents were immigrants.
Yes. Well, my mother and I were.
Your mother and I. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And attorneys as well. This second-generation attorney.
That's correct. Yes.
So which one's an attorney?
So both of my parents are attorneys. My father is actually a Canadian, a Spanish, and a Guatemalan attorney.
Wait a minute, hold on. You're losing. Canadian, Spanish. That's Spain.
From Spain, that's
right.
right.
Yeah, okay. I don't want people sitting there going like, well, hey, look, it's Spain or Mexico. No, Spain is in that's in Europe.
Yes.
How do you get a European law license, a Canadian law license, and an American license?
I'm so proud of my father. If I can just get to half of what he's done, one of the most things. Well,
change his camera angle, please. Go ahead.
One of the most wonderful things that he's done is do pro bono work.
Okay.
So he's worked a lot with the indigent populations in Guatemala, talking about ancestral property rights. So just what happened in the Dakota pipeline issue, remember the Dakota
Right.
pipeline, and I know that President Obama was, president, but when that started, and unfortunately we got a change of power, and then a lot of things happened after that. You saw those images of the forces were not comparable. You had tanks versus horses. Just the indigenous peoples in Dakota trying to protect the ancestral properties that they had. They had buried their
Right.
ancestors there, and the pipeline was going to drive through them and dig through it. So that's the type of work that still happens around the world, in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America, where indigenous people still claim that, because they've been there for generations and generations, they should be treated with more dignity and respect.
Now, I've seen you at the NAACP events,
Yes.
and you've been very active in the community in regards to that. The activism that you have in the community, do you think that'll hurt you on the bench?
No, because again, I've been a judge,
Mm-hmm.
so I have been, I come with a gavel and a robe, I say, because, I've been there, I've done that. I also got to keep my robe when I left the municipal bench.
So I should be calling you Judge Rosales.
If you want to be formalistic, that's what it would be. But to me, being close to the community is what it's about. I've been so fortunate to worship with so many congregations in the county. That's been one of my most wonderful experiences. Different styles of worshiping. And, what I like to say when folks ask me, you don't seem that stressed out, or frankly, it's about being prayed up. And I've been so fortunate to be welcomed to so many congregations that, I want to come back to all of the congregations I've been to thank everyone, no matter what, because, I would not be standing here with light heart and my spirits up, but for.
Are you getting enough rest?
I'm getting quality rest.
What is quality rest?
Quality
rest
is meditative rest. So at least you get to have, recenter yourself, and you at least try to. What I'm not doing is eating too well. I used to have a rule where I didn't eat in my car, and I would, make it a rule when my friends got in my car. But now that's out of the window. I've been eating and having lots of coffee in my car.
Fast food diet?
A little bit. I had Subway today. Which is just fine because I love sandwiches. But this is my 4th sandwich day.
Okay.
And so I love soups. And you can't eat soup in the car.
Okay. Now tell us about your family outside of your parents.
Sure. So, my parents, like many families, this is a family that, the nuclear family was divided. My parents are divorced. And so I do have a couple of half-brothers. They live in Spain. I have lots of cousins. My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, was blessed with 7 children. So I have over 60 cousins. And, some of them are here in Dallas. In fact, one of the reasons why I relocated to Dallas was because of that family. My paternal aunt had been here. She married a Tejano. And this was, over 50 years ago, and this was a place where I knew I had mentors and someone that would take good mental and spiritual care of me. I came here when I was 19 years old, and I've been in Dallas most of my life. It's been the place where I've spent the most years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now the endorsements that are out. You said something about the Dallas Morning News.
So the Dallas Morning News didn't consider my race. For some reason, the Dallas County courts, again, 5 of them in the civil system, were not considered for endorsements.
Why is that?
I don't know. I know that during the primary election, there were 11 pages on the ballot, I think of over 150 candidates total. So, it can get overwhelming. In fact, a lot of the organizations I know that were out there, doing endorsement processes had to consider that as to whether or not they would even endorse in one particular race.
Now, the endorsements that your opponent had touted, he had touted a bunch of them. I'm not going to list them. He was on the show. But he had listed, he said, I have more endorsements than my opponent.
Respectfully disagree here. He has club endorsements. And when I say club, these are individuals who have done a lot of work in the Democratic Party. But it's always hard to enter into a club. When you're considered the outsider, which I have been. I have been considered the outsider, and it's not easy to get into a club when you are considered that. So that is my position on the endorsements. I have many amazing endorsements from community leaders, from people who have been in the trenches.
Such as who?
Well, Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson, Commissioner Elba Garcia, 5 councilmen, Councilman Atkins, Councilman Thomas, Councilman Medrano and Narvaez, and Councilman Felder. Also, the faith-based community. I'm just so proud and blessed to have Dr. Freddie Haynes' endorsement, Dr. Michael Waters, Reverend Waters' endorsement, and Dr. Bowie, and I can list them all if you need to.
No,
but I would.
Quite a few.
It's been such a blessing. This is a movement for me. This, in my opinion, a lot of us who are running right now are doing it for individual reasons, but just having the opportunity to interact with the colleagues, and when I say colleagues, candidates who are challenging incumbents, just being able to see their individual stories. We didn't know each other when we first started running, but of course the nature of campaign work makes you part of kind of, if you're considered the outsider, then it kind of bonds you in that way.
Yeah, once you run for office, there is a bond. It's sort of like prize fighting. If you get into the ring with someone, you're in the same arena.
Yes, that's
Theodore
correct.
President Roosevelt said that the arena. I received this the other day, and it has Happy Mother's Day on it, and it has all of the women that are running in the runoffs right now, and have you right up there, right up front. Tell us about this picture.
I love that photo. It's beautiful. It's a rainbow. It's about womanhood, sisterhood, motherhood. It's about unity in a way. I think many of the women who are listening and watching, there is a special bond when you face challenges with other women. And we were invited to be part of this. I know that some candidates are not on the photo, but we were invited to also include our families. Mm-hmm. And it was a very beautiful, sunny, hot day. But we were able to all come together, and just excited that we were able to make that happen.
Where were y'all at? It's a lot of green in the background.
Yes, that was the Cedar Hill State Park.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, as a man, and if I was going to run against a woman, it would be somewhat difficult these days. See, we're talking about women being in charge. I think it's like 58% of the electorate in Dallas County is women.
If I recall the statistics, yes, that's you're very close to that. Maybe a little more. Maybe a little more.
A little bit
but
more.
58%, is a conservative estimate.
How can men, and I'm not trying to get any man to run and vote, or against one person as well. To some men, they seem to be uncomfortable with that. How do you address that?
One of the best quotes I've heard from the notorious RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg,
Okay.
has been, she's been asked, when do you think, this was when Justice Kagan was sworn as a U.S. Supreme Court judge, when do you think that you'll have enough women in the United States Supreme Court? And her answer was, when there are 9 of us.
Wow. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's that's as a man, that's gonna scare people, and I'm like saying scared, and not in the sense that they're gonna be hiding underneath the bed.
Right.
But aren't you concerned that there may be some pushback, that some people may consider that sexist?
I don't know. For so many decades, at least 200 years in Dallas County, the benches have belonged to men, only men. And it's only, I think, between 2014 and now that we've seen an increase of women representation and, also minority women representation. Right. If we look at the criminal courts here in Dallas County, we're blessed, I believe, to have the most diverse judiciary in the nation when we look at the criminal benches. We bring a different perspective, as you know, in terms of being multitaskers. I think evidence-based in terms of psychology studies have shown that women are a little better at managing several things at once. And I think that creativity and that management system comes in handy when you're trying to resolve issues and problems, when you're talking about access to justice.
Access to justice. And we're both human rights activists
yes.
in our own rights. What do you view Dallas's role in social activism and human rights? As we just earlier, we had a young lady that walked out that had, her family had went through something horrific. Mm-hmm. What's your opinion about human rights? I have to ask you this
Sure.
because you're a human rights activist.
Sure. Well, human rights is about ensuring that everyone's humanity and dignity is respected. And until we have that, we will not have achieved, the dream of equalizing the playing field. And unfortunately, I don't know the specific facts of the woman, the mother, grandmother who was here.
Not addressing her, but just in general about human rights.
Sure. So it really, again, it comes back to ensuring that institutions, that people, that everyday interactions are about observing the humanity of everyone and recognizing that, again, we're all in this life together and there's only one life that we get to live, and we have to make sure that, if you're not spiritual, if you're not, religious, you can find beauty in other things, I'm assuming, in terms of how you become a moral and dignified human being so that you can observe that dignity in others. But in terms of human rights, it's, and I wish I could pull up my beautiful chart on the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, but that's been a document that I've had my entire life. I've written about it. It's been on the walls of my home. I used to memorize it in French and Spanish, at least some of those tenets, some of those articles.
Now, we're getting ready to go to a close, and the gentleman just walked past and give me the sign to say that we're about to close.
I see.
I want us to close out with you. Why should we let you for the bids?
Well, many reasons. Again, I come in with a diversity of experience, just like Mr. Gray has noted. I have been in the community. I've been a community court judge. I've been a West Dallas Community Court and Northeast Community Court judge. And what that really means is I was there for you for 5 years. Community courts is a court where you have direct access to the judge. You get to walk in, the clerk is going to greet you, and if you have anything that you want to discuss, you get to meet the judge. And I've been that for you for 5 years. I also come in with the innovative court practice mentality. We need to catch up to our New York and California judges who are ensuring that access for low-income individuals is present. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the responsible citizen docket, again, going back to the law schools and bringing in those resources to help our courts move cases more favorably by giving access to folks who can't afford attorneys, preventing default judgments from happening in most cases. And once a default judgment is entered, and this is just kind of a parenthetical, but once a default judgment is entered, they can garnish your wages. And if you're a person with one income in a family and they garnish your wages, you can bet that making the mortgage is going to be difficult.
Right. And election is now going on now?
Yes, going on immediately right now. The polls are going to close today at 7 p.m. Please vote either today from now 6 o'clock to 7 p.m. through Friday, May 18, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can vote anywhere in the county, and May 22nd, you must vote in your precinct.
You heard that, ladies and gentlemen? And as they're about to run us off the air right now, we want you to come back again and also go to the polls beginning today and to the end of the week, and then on May 27th. The Commish Radio Show, we're out of here. Let's go vote.
Let's go vote.
All right.